Once again, welcome to my YouTube channel, Livestock Products Technology. As you know, we are discussing a series of lecture on fish spoilage. We have already completed 4 lectures and today is the concluding. Initially, we have discussed about the basics of handling and storage, and then 2 lectures on spoilage. One is microbial spoilage, and before that enzymatic spoilage and chemical spoilage. And in the last lecture we have discussed the factors responsible or factors affecting the spoilage, and today we will conclude with the fish quality testing or testing of the freshness or testing of the spoilage of fish, the different methods for testing the freshness or spoilage of fish. So at the beginning, let me recapitulate few things related to spoilage. As we know, the fish is one of the most commonly consumed food or foods of animal origin. It is a very high preference, very high quality nutritionally, and also it is highly perishable. So fish is a very good source of very high quality protein and unsaturated fatty acids. Many of the essential fatty acids and essential amino acids are present in a very high quantity, and it is also a very good source of omega-3 fatty acids, which is very important for human health and nutrition. Naturally, such food are very easily susceptible to spoilage. So fish after catching, if it is not given proper protection, within 12 hours it starts spoilage. So this spoilage, as we have discussed thoroughly in earlier lectures, is mainly due to 3 ways. One is due to the metabolic activity of microorganisms and their enzymes, and another is due to the endogenous enzymes in the fish, and the third is due to the chemical oxidation of the lipids. So since this lecture is focused on understanding the freshness indication or testing of freshness or testing of spoilage, so first let us understand what are the freshness indicator of fish. The general appearance, that is the eyes, gills, surface slime, scales, and the firmness or softness of the flesh. So this gives an overall idea about the freshness of fish. That is the general appearance. The next is the appearance, particularly the presence and absence of discoloration along the underside or the backbone. So what is the appearance underside, the belly or the backbone, also another indicator. And the appearance of the belly walls, sometimes there can be rupture or we call belly burns, is an indicator of the spoilage. Then the odor of the gills and belly cavity. If there is a spoilage, there will be bad odors at the gills or at the belly cavity. And finally, the presence or absence of rigor mortis or death stiffening. So this stiffening happens due to the rigor mortis after death, and this takes some time. So that indicates about the period lapsed after the catching and about the freshness of fish. So in this we will see the quality of fresh fish in a brief, and in the next one we will see in more details. So first let us see about the eyes. The eyes will be clear and shiny, bulging out and not sunken inside. The skin will be shiny and tight. The odor, there will be a fresh and mild odor, and then the body or the muscle will have a firmness or the strength of the flesh, and there will be no belly burn in the cavity, and gills will be bright red color. It will not be gray or brown. So these are the quick sign for the freshness of the fish. So here once again we will see the freshness indicators, little more details. The number one is the odor. It will have a fresh seagrass or metallic odor. And then the gill, it will be characteristic red clear slime. Odor is fresh like seaweed or metallic. No blood blotches on the gill cover. The third is belly, gutted, that is clean and neutral odor, color of the flesh characteristic, and inside smooth, shiny and uniform in color. The eyes, number 4, will have clear and black metallic gloss, normal, convex, stands out like bulging out from the head. The fifth is the surface or the skin. There will be no bruises or injuries, bright and shiny, and a slimy mucus layer will be there on the surface. And the last one, the body tension. That is the firmness. It will have a elastic under pressure, and the stiffer is the better. Here once again we'll see the summarized important points or indicators of freshness of fish. The color of the skin is vivid and not opaque. The scales are intact or adhere well. The body is stiff and a little slimy, so there will be a stiffness or firmness of the body or muscles. And fish sinks if placed in water. If we put the fish on the water, it will sink. And then flesh is firm and elastic, so there will be a firmness and strength. It will have a seaweedy odor rather than fish odor. Actual fishy odor will not be there in case of fresh fish. It will have a seaweedy odor. And finally, the eyes are bright and bulging out, not sinking inside. And gills are bright red. So these are the important indicators of the freshness of fish. Now we will see the spoilage indicators in fish, or how to identify the spoilage. So firstly, there will be a overall change in the color of the fish in the surface, the glistening or glaze on the surface. Secondly, there will be bad odor due to the development of trimethylamine. Then there will be the dry surface. Normally there will be a wet and slimy surface in case of fresh fish, which will not be there in case of old or fish going to spoil or already spoiled. Then there will be color of eyes dull and depressed, so the shine will not be there and it will be sinking inside. Then color of gills, instead of red it will be gray or brown. Some smell also may come. And the softness of the muscle. So if we check the texture or press, we will feel that the muscle don't have that much firmness, rather it will be more soft. So these are important indicators of the spoilage in fish. Here in this picture we can clearly appreciate the difference in good condition and bad condition of the fish, that is the freshness and the spoiled. In the left side we can see the color of the gill. At the bottom it is red, that is the indication of freshness, whereas in the top we can see the dull gray color in case of the old or spoiled fish. In the center we can see the condition of eyes. At the bottom it is glistening, dark black color and bulging out, whereas in the top we can see that it is dull, the eyes are dull and it is sinking inside. And at the right side bottom we can see the glistening surface, it is slimy, the freshness of the fresh fish, and the top we can see the dullness, dryness and softness of the old fish or spoiling fish. Now we will discuss about the quality assessment of fish, that is the assessment of freshness or spoilage, the different methods. The first is the physical method. There are the physical parameters. By checking we can tell what is the condition. Then there is subjective method, that is by using the human application by our sense, and sometimes we can also call it organoleptic method, where we can test and check what is the condition in case of cooked fish or fish products. And then there is chemical method, where we can measure different chemical indicators or biological markers. By using different kind of methods and machines we can tell the freshness or spoilage of fish. So here we will discuss about the assessment of raw fish. First is the physical method. Physical method means some instruments can be used, like there is an instrument called torimeter. So this torimeter we can pierce into the machine on the skin of fish, and through that we can get some result from which we can make an assessment about the condition of the fish. So that's a physical method, but it is always not very reliable and always a matter of confusion. Then there is subjective method. So subjective methods which involve the use of human sense organs and not the machines, chemicals or reagents. So subjective method means use of the human sense, not by using the chemicals or measuring the chemicals or reagents using different machines. So here we can say organoleptics test sometime by utilizing the sense of touch, smell, sight and taste for quality assessment. So sight means how we see it, like gill color, presence or absence of indentation, which we have discussed earlier. Then the smell, that is, we told there is a formation of trimethylamine which gives a very bad odor. Of course, there can be other odors due to decomposition of lipid or lancidity or decomposition of protein and leading to putrefaction. So all those things will give a bad smell. So that shows the degree of freshness, the smell. And then there is touch. So muscle normally will have a firmness when we touch or press with finger. So we can also check the condition of the belly, the flabbiness and also presence of any blemishes. So these are the visual test or use of human for subjective method. Now we will discuss about the assessment of cooked fish by subjective method. So by using the human senses. So first is the texture. So we have an idea about the texture of meat when it is cooked or fish muscle. It will have an elasticity and firmness, soft or flabby and fragmentation, whether it breaks easily. If the fish is spoiled after cooking, it will fragment or it will be fragile. Then the taste, that is, it can be sweet, bitter, salty or sour. So this can be sometime as a fermented and marinates. So if the fish is spoiled, it will have a difference in the taste. Then the flavor. So flavor is normally a combination of taste and aroma or taste and odor, and it is by the typical combination effect of many volatile organic compounds. So whenever we have a good and bad flavor, that indicates about the freshness or spoiled fish even after cooking. Similarly, we can have other flavor from the smoke or from the cooking. Then there is a objective test, or we can say instrumental test. So nowadays there are different kind of machines available which work on the principle of estimating the important flavor compounds or flavor forming chemical compounds. So there are different kind of machines applied. One of the most common is chromatographic principles, in which the important chemical compounds which contributes to the flavor, they can be measured, and from that we can assess the flavor. So sometimes there are more advanced machines which are called as electronic nose. Now we are going to discuss about the measure of spoilage by chemical methods or biological methods. So before going to discuss about that, once again we will have a quick review about the spoilage and the chemical components or indicators coming out due to the spoilage. So we have discussed in previous lectures in spoilage of chemical nature or enzymatic or microbial. So three different methods of spoilage we have discussed, and in all these methods some or other chemical components will be produced from the microbial growth or from the enzymatic action or from the oxidation. So some of the common indicators here are total volatile basic nitrogen, then trimethylamine, which is coming from trimethylamine oxide, then there can be free fatty acid, then thiobarbituric acid TBA, there can be K values, other biogenic amines. From the protein, when it breaks, it forms amino acids, and from that amines are formed, and also sometimes we can measure the microbial count. So different microorganisms we can count. So these are the indicators for spoilage which we can use for measure of freshness or spoiled. So here once again we will review the spoilage process. There will be rigor mortis, autolysis or microbial spoilage that leads to stiffening of muscle, breakdown of ATP, breakdown of protein and fat, breakdown of amino acid and other non-protein compounds. So all these lead to the formation of dimethylamine or trimethylamine. There can be breakdown of protein and putrefaction. At that time it produces highly smelling bad odor components like putrescine, cadaverine, and sometime it will produce the amino acids from which it produces ammonia by deamination, and sometime other biogenic amines also will be produced. So all these components, that is DMA, TMA, putrescine, histamine, cadaverine, ammonia, we can measure for the freshness. So here quickly we will see the determination of microbial spoilage of fish using electronic nose. As I said, there is subjective method and there is objective method. The subjective method is application of human senses. So here easily we can detect the fishy odor, particularly due to the trimethylamine, or sometime other putrefaction or rancidity we can detect from the human smell. Whereas the other aspect is the application of machines. So there is production of many chemical compounds, odoriferous or volatile chemical compounds. So all those chemicals can be measured by electronic methods or chromatographic methods, and sometimes we call them electronic nose. Now we will discuss about the physicochemical method of assessment for freshness or spoilage of fish. One of the most important parameter is the determination of pH. So there are different methods for determination of pH. The most scientific method is the use of digital pH meter. We all know that it will have a 2 electrode and we have to take the sample and homogenize and make a slurry. In that we have to combine probe of pH meter we have to place, and it will indicate the pH directly. Then there are easy simple indicators like pH strips, which gives a rough idea about the pH. Similarly, there is litmus test or litmus paper that also give a rough idea about the pH, whether it is acidic or alkaline. And there is some chemical indicator method like nitrogen yellow, or it indicates about the pH range. So most important reliable method is the digital pH meter, which gives accurate and correct picture about the pH condition is in the fish. So most of the time when fish spoiled, particularly due to microbial spoilage, the pH will increase and it may go beyond 6.5 or 7. Now we will discuss about the evaluation of putrefaction or decomposition. So here it will denote the end product of the spoilage or the indicators of spoilage, and it do not give any idea about the degree of spoilage. What is the degree? It won't tell. It won't only tell about the indicators, about the specific indicators, that is the chemical indicators of spoilage. As we have discussed earlier, one is to measure the trimethylamine, next is total volatile basic nitrogen, third is volatile reducing substances VRS, then there is indole and scatol. These are the decomposition products, particularly from the protein, and there is hydrogen sulfide. Again it comes from the breakdown of protein and amino acid, which gives a very bad smell. So these are some of the important chemical indicators in spoilage which we can measure and use it for the detection of freshness or spoilage of fish. So now you will see the lipid spoilage indicators. In the previous slide we have seen the breakdown of proteins leading to putrefaction. Even there I missed one, that is the free amino acid also can be measured, or sometime tyrosine value. So whenever protein is broken, free amino acid will be produced, and one of the representative tyrosine value can be measured. In case of lipid spoilage, sometimes leads to rancidity, so we can measure peroxide value, thiobarbituric acid test or value, that is TBA value. Sometimes it is also called as thiobarbituric acid reactive substances, TBARS. We can measure the free fatty acids. We can measure the refractive index. The lipid will have an influence over the refractive index, and also we can measure the electrical conductivity. This is a physical property. When there is a change in the physicochemical conditions, it will change the electrical conductivity. Now briefly we will discuss about the sample preparation for chemical analysis to measure the freshness or spoilage. So firstly, we should maintain the sample at about 4 degrees Celsius and also pre-cool the equipments for any purpose for sample preparation. Then mix the sample and analyze immediately. For estimation of amines or total volatile bases for frozen fish, first it should be thawed at around 4 degrees Celsius and later we can mince it or chop it in rotary homogenizer. So for any sample it has to be uniform. So the frozen fish should be thawed at around 4 degrees Celsius, and when it is completely thawed we can chop it or we can grind it in a rotary homogenizer. Now this is the last. We will discuss little more details about the sample preparation for analysis. I have discussed different important chemical parameters, especially for protein breakdown or decomposition and also for fat breakdown or lipid spoilage, but all those methods are very lengthy, so we cannot discuss all those details here. Each method need to be discussed in a one lecture separately. So that will be discussed in practical sessions. Here I have only mentioned about the important parameters to be measured for the purpose of freshness or spoilage of fish. So in the sample preparation for the bacterial analysis or for counting the bacteria, different species or spoilage organism, first we should have the sample in plastic bags which may be in a frozen condition. So first it should be thawed by immersing in agitated water bath at around 20 degrees Celsius. Then we should check whether the thawing is complete by gently squeezing the bag and until we feel there is presence of any hard ice crystals. After that we should check when the thawing is complete. We should break the fish muscle into uniform mass by double mincing or by electrical chopper, and then the sample we can store in a airtight container and then it should be used for analysis as quickly as possible. So sometime if we have to store the sample, if necessary we can keep it at around 4 degrees Celsius. So this is a brief explanation about the sample preparation for any of the assessment or measurement of the quality, particularly of chemical parameters. Now we are at the end of today's lecture. Just let me summarize. So today we have discussed about the detection of freshness or spoilage of fish. So initially I have discussed about the freshness indicators by different ways like the surface, color, the eye condition, glistening or sinking or blackness, the color of the gill and the firmness of the muscle or the body, and also the condition of the abdominal region. And we have discussed about the different indicators of spoilage and different subjective way to identify the spoilage. And then we have discussed about the objective methods, the different chemical compounds like the markers or indicators of spoilage, what are the important indicators which can be assessed, the chemical components and different methods for that. And finally we have discussed about the sample preparation, and in this last picture you can see the modern method for identification or measuring some chemical indicators, very sensitive smartphone based methods where we can measure the very low concentration of some of the indicators. Thank you.